Here in the Pacific Northwest, we get all the weather in the late winter and early spring. It rains constantly. The wind is a constant nuisance. 2 years ago, it snowed on April 15th. Sometimes we get all the weather in the same day. I remember one 2-hour parent-child session where we started out in drizzly rain. In the middle of the session, the sun broke out, had us actually diving for the shade. And then by the end of the session, when we were hiking out of the forest, the wind kicked up and the toddlers all got their first experience with hail. Hello, I'm Nicole Drabillas-Fravel, and this is Wildwood Teaching. And the good thing about all the different kinds of weather we get around here this time of year is that the children notice it and are super interested in it. So today I just want to share some of my favorite read alouds to share with young children when they are showing that interest in different types of weather. So one of the books I have is The Weather Girls by Aki. And you can see from the cover here, it kind of gives off Madeline vibes, even as it starts here. Meet the Weather Girls. Laura, Annie, Jane, June, Miffy, Rebecca, Vanessa, Melanie, Sarah, Lucy, Kirsten, Joy, Kathleen, Zoe, Tilly, Emily. It's summertime, we rise and shine. All set to go, we form a line. This book is just a really nice introduction to the different seasons and the different types of weather. And so it's nice as you're introducing that concept to children. I remember one year we created backdrops of different types of weather. Here's windy, here's snowy, here's rainy, and just let the children kind of hang them in the dramatic play area, and they could choose different backdrops and then, think about the costumes they were designing and the types of role play that they were doing in the dramatic play area, depending on what kind of weather they had created the scene for. Paper dolls, right? Might go well with the Weather Girls and dressing the paper dolls in different types of weather. Okay. Another choice is Hello, Lighthouse by Sophie Blackall. And oftentimes, different years, changes in weather bring out a real interest in children in the changes in water. What are the different forms and states that water can take? And so I really like this book because it is demonstrating weather through the changes in the ocean. So you're able to see storms and fog, right? And there's a page here where the whole entire ocean becomes a sheet of ice. So talking about the different forms that water can take. And so often we'll go on water scavenger hunts. Right? Even though it isn't raining, where can we find water in nature and what form does it take? So the cool thing again about this time of year is we're going to find water in different forms on that same morning. So we might find ice, we might find dew, we might be able to feel the fog in the air and just kind of catalog it and talk about it. All right, now look at the Weather by Britta Teckentrup. Is a bit dense and complicated, the text for preschoolers. But what I really love about this story, I wouldn't suggest it necessarily as a read aloud, but the watercolor pictures are excellent for how do you show weather, right? How do you show rain? And how do I know that this is a driving hard rain as opposed to a gentle rain? And I've had a lot of success kind of using this book or books with similar types of illustrations, and then bringing out the nature journals and having children think about how am I going to depict the weather and in particular the movement and the temperature, something that maybe isn't a static painting, but how do I depict that in artwork? When the Storm Comes by Linda Ashman. This story juxtaposes the human family getting ready for different types of weather, the storm coming, with what the animals are doing to get ready for the storm, right? Some of the ocean creatures diving down toward the depths of the ocean where they might not feel it as much, seeking shelter. And I'm always a good one for helping children kind of connect things in their lives to things that the animals are doing. This might be another sort of scavenger hunt type of activity that you're doing with the children after a storm. Can we look at the changes that have been wrought by the storm? Can we look also at hints of recovery? Can we tell that there are some things that the plants or animals have done to recover from the weather? Or we might go before a storm is approaching and think about, what are the different types of animals that we're familiar with in our habitat? Where can we spot places that they might go to seek shelter? Lainey Dances in the Rain is by Ken Willard. Now, Ken Willard, the author, is from my hometown of Portland, Oregon. So I know he understands that most children are not actually bothered by the rain and the joy of splashing and dancing in puddles. And so this child dances in the puddles until they are bullied by another child. After they are helped by their mom, they realize they can continue to be whomever they want to be, and they don't let the bully stop them from dancing in the rain, even when the bully paints their jacket. And what happens is they end up painting rainbows and bringing joy to a number of other people as well. And this is, as you might have noticed, a wordless book. So it can challenge the children to create their own stories and interpret the pictures and have that use of language. I love sharing wordless picture books with children because they can be different each time. And what else would you do after reading this book besides go dance in some puddles? Maybe even put on some music to make it extra special. Now, the author does include some discussion questions here in the back if you want to guide some discussions with children, some social, emotional, resiliency types of things for how to deal with those types of encounters that they might deal with other children. Right now, just like I like to include wordless picture options when I read to children, I do like to read nonfiction texts to children to help them understand the different ways of listening, whether we're listening for a story or whether we're listening to gain information. And sometimes early readers that are meant for, primary grade students to read alone can be a really good way of teaching early concepts to preschoolers, because this one, Windy Weather by Sally Lee, is scientifically accurate, but describes things in really simple 1 to 2 sentences on each page so that they're just getting a quick snapshot of what is the wind, what makes the wind. And this is actually part of a series of books that are all about different types of weather. So if it is not wind, but snow or rain or sun that the children are interested in at the time, you can pick some different type of weather in this same exact series. And like I said, it's not very detailed, but it might kind of spur the children to do things. So there's a section here on different types of wind, and what it's called, right? Here's a breeze is a light wind, a gale is a strong wind, and that might spur children to investigate more. What do I know about wind speed? How do I measure it? What can different speeds of wind do? And if they are inclined to go a little bit deeper in some of the topics on windy weather, then I suggest Wind, Discovering Air in Motion. Now, just like the Look at the Weather book, I do not suggest this as a read it cover to cover read aloud, because it is quite dense. There are quite a lot of words on each page, but you are going to be able to use this the way that most people use nonfiction, right? I'm interested in a topic and I want to know more about something, whatever it is. And so I am just going to use this as a reference book. And so if I am interested, I marked some pages. If I am interested in that, different speeds of wind and what we call different speeds of wind that I read in Windy Weather, then I can take a look here at different wind speeds and how we measure them and what they are called. I might even then decide that I want to make my own measuring tools to measure the wind, and then look in this book for ideas of different ways that people have measured wind direction and wind speed. Obviously, this is not a complete list of all of the excellent picture books available to help children follow their curiosity about weather. If you have some ideas of great books that you've used with young children, please let us all know. You can comment on this video. You can get in touch with Wildwood Teaching through Facebook, through Instagram, or join our newsletter list and reply to my newsletter, add it in, and we can all help each other. And then in the meantime, join me here next week for another episode of Wildwood Teaching. I will see you there.